Hello everybody, hope your day is going well. This is Adam Noyce from Mr. Avatar 911 here, and welcome to another Movie Reviews War Edition. Masaki Kobayashi is one of my favorite directors to come from Japan, and plain old one of my favorite directors, period. His style of filming was revolutionary, and every film he has made is a masterpiece, from Hayakiri to Kwaidan. And even a film put on the best films ever made list, Samurai Rebellion. Though many people view Akira Kurosawa to be the greatest at making films from Japan, which he is great, but Kobayashi's films always kept my eyes watching. Not only are his stories well put together, but how he shoots his films always keeps your eyes on the screen. His films are staggering in scope and usually deal with social issues that still carry over to today overseas. From 1959 to 1961, Kobayashi adapted Junpei Gomikawa's, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm usually good with Japanese names, 6-volume story into 3 epic films starring the amazing Tetsuya Nakadai. In total, the film is 9 hours and 47 minutes in length and is breathtaking to watch. The films are The Human Condition. The first film was made in 1959 and tells the story of Keiji, a pacifistic man who is seeing many of his friends go off to war. He is promised that he will not be sent off to war and is sent to help run a POW camp in eastern China. He marries his wife Michiko, and they arrive in town. It's desolate and hopeless. Keiji is assigned an assistant played by So Yamamura, most famously known for his portrayal as Yamamoto in Tora Tora Tora, who is a grizzled man who has a very dark personality. Almost immediately, Keiji begins to complain about how the prisoners are being malnourished, which is an understatement, and are being beat too severely to continue to work. The authorities don't listen and Keiji vows to continue to protect the Chinese POWs. Keiji tries to look past the brutality and promises the POWs he won't do anything to harm them. This doesn't set well for the Japanese, and the Chinese don't trust him for being Japanese, which is a great statement on how it's a full circle effect. An escape attempt throws Keiji over the edge, and the Japanese Kentape, which is basically their version of the SS, now keeps a close eye on him. He begins to lose faith in himself and in his own ways. His wife begins to see how hurt Keiji is, but Keiji makes matters worse by not talking to her. One of the best scenes in the film is when Keiji hurts one of his close Chinese friends, when he finds out that the man is stealing flour. Masaki Kobayashi uses an allegory for how war changes even the best of people, and from here on out, Keiji's character turns darker and darker. Another escape attempt pits all of Keiji's friends against him, and the Kentape wrongfully arrest 5 Chinese prisoners. Keiji does all he can to save them, but ultimately fails, and is forced as punishment to watch their execution. 2 are executed, and 1 is brutally slashed by an inexperienced Japanese officer. POWs begin to rise in what I can only say is one of the most powerful scenes in history, and the execution is postponed. Keiji is arrested and brutally beaten by fellow Japanese. That's not the worst of it. Once he's released, he gets a note from the Japanese Imperial Army that he is to be drafted. He spends the next 24 hours with his wife, and that concludes film 1. The second film is titled Road to Eternity, made the same year as the first. Keiji is now in a recruit camp for the Kwatang Army, something like that. Kwatang Army in Manchuria. After protecting Chinese POWs in the prison camps earlier, he is put under surveillance and has to do harsh duties despite being a good marksman and having good discipline. Soon his wife Michiko pleads for Keiji's forgiveness to some of the officers, and even pays him a visit, which causes a stir in a very heartwarming and sympathetic scene. Keiji's very much a dark person for the first part of this film, but after her visit, he begins to lighten up, even though you can still tell he's a different person, another charm of Master Masaki Kobayashi. Keiji then befriends a man named Shinjo, who is under surveillance for probably being a member of the Communist Party. Being near the Soviet border, they begin to ponder on the possibility of escape, but Keiji decides to keep faithful to his wife, which he promises he would return to, and goes through with the military, which is what will lead to his demise. A man named Obara, with poor eyesight, commits suicide because of the intense bullying against him. Keiji demands discipline. This does not happen. In a very powerful scene after some verbal confrontations between Private First Class Yoshida, the man who causes the suicide, and Keiji converts back to darkness, and he refuses to save Yoshida from quicksand in pursuit of Shinjo escaping to the USSR. Keiji is then asked to handle new recruits and is promoted to Private First Class. He accepts and pleads to separate them from experienced and cruel artillerymen. He takes punishment for much of what the recruits do. But in one scene, Keiji snaps and fights back. This showed that the bullies are not at all strong, and usually do things like that because they are weak themselves. This shakes the whole camp into awe. The Soviets declare war on Japan, and many of the recruits are forced to dig trenches. Many have high spirits, which is cut short when they are told to defend a flat, open ground terrain field with little weaponry and not much more than 100 men. Once the battle commences, the Soviets roll over the inexperienced troops and kill almost all of them. Keiji survives and finds other survivors. The final and saddest film of the trilogy is called A Soldier's Prayer, and begins where the second film leaves off. Keiji has found soldiers that have survived the slaughter and try to sneak past Soviet forces. He is forced to bayonet a Russian, and this traumatizes him into hating the army even further. He goes and finds many civilian refugees and vows to help protect them. So when I first watched this, it annoyed me. The second time I watched this, I found myself nearly moved to tears. They get lost in a Manchurian forest. Keiji and his men, as well as the civilians, begin to starve, and a family commits suicide, foreshadowing the events at the end of the film. Once they make it to the other side, they encounter other Japanese troops. They deny Keiji's party food as if they were deserters, and Keiji ignores the troops and moves on. Keiji begins to show signs of sympathy for a prostitute traveling with him, probably because her personality reminds him of his wife. And the party takes refuge in a Chinese farmhouse, where they all find food and begin to form a sense of hope again. Chinese militia ambushes them, and the prostitute is killed, causing Keiji to want to fight back. They are all nearly killed, but they make it a swift run for it despite Keiji's wishing to fight. Keiji clearly is willing to put his comrades above himself, and that's why he's such an inspirational character. Later they encounter more Japanese soldiers who wish to fight the Soviets because they're communist. Keiji refuses to help, stating how he wishes to be a communist or socialist. Everyone knows I'm a Republican, so yeah, that's alright. They join together and come across a village. They are welcome, but a Soviet patrol walks in. They take positions to fight, but a woman gives away their positions. Outnumbered, Keiji orders a surrender. They're brought to the POW camp. You get a sense from the first film again about harsh treatment. Keiji and a few others resist the Japanese who work with the Soviets, causing trouble. They pick through garbage for food and clothing for the harsh winter. This causes Keiji to become a saboteur in the minds of the Soviets, and he is put on trial in a very powerful scene. Masaki Kobayashi shot it perfectly, and the dialogue is phenomenally well done. Keiji begins to see how socialism is just as bad as fascism. The context meaning that the middle of the road is the way to go. Keiji then witnesses his good friend die from overwork and exhaustion. He escapes the camp and kills the Japanese man responsible brutally. Keiji is now a man we feel hatred to. This 180-degree turn is what the rest of the film slowly shows. He gets better, but then he gets worse. His hope of returning to his wife keeps him going. Chinese peasants beat him and abuse him. Then what the film foreshadowed the entire time finally happens. Keiji freezes to death in the frozen tundra. What a message that sends. No matter what happens in war, there is no winner, just losers. Keiji lives this whole time and then dies because of scraps of war. This film is full of messages like that. It proposes how love triumphs over all, and love can be a will leader. What can keep a man living? It made me question how to look at life, and not many films make you question reality. But Masaki Kobayashi is a god at doing this. While watching these, that's what kept me interested. How it made me question my own beliefs, my own ideals. The dialogue is timeless, and every shot offers some sort of symbolic aspect to it. Epic in scope, The Human Condition is one of the most influential films to ever come from Japan, and I would even go to say one of the most influential films ever made. This made me miss the good old days when it doesn't need to have explosions at all times. Just get a good story, add 3D characters, and an audience will be interested. The soundtrack only adds to Masaki Kobayashi's vision. Though the score doesn't play much, it is always there as a reminder to how bleak it was during this time period. The film's title is perfect, The Human Condition. It fits so well. What would you do in a situation like this? This is, in my opinion, the greatest anti-war movie ever made. It balances a good plot with good characters. The pacing may seem long for many. I found it to be a good way to add more atmosphere and to become more attached to the characters. Easily, this film gets 4 out of 4 stars. This film I recommend to everyone to the highest possible degree, and I'd put it on the list of films you need to see before you die. Give it a watch, The Human Condition.